Well, we come to the third Sunday of Easter, and we have a very beautiful story about Jesus and Peter. In fact, I would say essentially the entire gospel is focused on Peter, although we have some others in the cast of characters, as we say in the Latin, the dramatis personae. So let's take a look at this. I want to title the message Back to the Future. Now, the reason I say that is that Peter and the others who follow him are going backward in time. They're going, quote, back to fishing, which is something the Lord called them away from. He said, from now on, in other words, into the future, you will be fishers of men. And he called them to that. And sadly, we see a sad kind of relapse or going back to the past. And we'll explain a little bit about that maybe psychologically in a moment. But again, back to the future. The Lord is saying, come back. You've slipped into the past. Come back to me. Come back to the future, the present and to the future, and let's move forward. Now, so the story begins. They're up in Galilee. Now, up till now, most of the resurrection appearances have occurred in Jerusalem, and therefore the Lord is there with them in Jerusalem. He appears in the upper room. He appears a week later in the upper room. He appeared near Jerusalem on the road to Emmaus. He appeared at the tomb. He appeared, his appearances are right there in and around Jerusalem. Now, if you read the scriptures, an angel told some of the women to tell the disciples, now go north to Galilee where you will see him. So they've gone north to Galilee. Now, this leads us, and it says there by the Sea of Tiberias, but it's the Sea of Galilee, okay. It had different names, but same place. We have a situation where Peter, by this time, has seen the Lord arguably at least 4 times. Because, again, although he appeared to them as a group 3 times, he appeared to Peter at one point separately, we know from Paul's testimony. So, at this point, let's just say Peter's seen the Lord risen from the dead 4 times. 4 times. Now, with all that in mind, I don't know, you and I might say, I'd be doing some serious believing at this time, Jesus is definitely raised from the dead. But, I want you to maybe try to get back into the moment and try to think like Peter would have at the time. You and I grew up with the idea he rose from the dead, et cetera, et cetera. This was new to them. This whole idea of rising from the dead, all that stuff kind of rocked their world. But here's what's happening. Jesus appeared to them on Easter Sunday, and then it seems, I say seems because we have to sort of realize that maybe the texts don't tell us everything that happened, but that it was almost an entire week before he appeared again, the following week in the same place, the upper room. So what do you think's going on in their mind between this period of where they see him once, he's alive, and then he disappears, and then where is he? I can't find him. Am I crazy? Maybe he's not really alive. I'm having a delusion. I mean, you start to question yourself. You're like, I can't figure this out. He appears, then he disappears, and he appears again, and I don't know what to make of it. I mean, what am I supposed to do? And now we got these instructions to go all the way back up to Galilee. All right, let's go. And they're up there, and who knows how long they were there, maybe a week or 2 later, and it took them at least 3 or 4 days to probably get up there and get situated. Peter just says, look, I don't get it. I'm really struggling with this. He appears, then he disappears. Are we all having a delusion? What does this mean? Jesus used to walk with them habitually. Yes, he would go off to pray at times, but generally they knew where he was. But appearing, disappearing, all of this is hard for them. And I think it would be hard for you and me too. We sometimes see that God works in our life, does wonderful things, and all of a sudden he seems to draw back and where is he? And all my good fortune seems to be falling apart, and every bad luck I can get hits me. I mean, we all get like this, and we don't quite know how to understand or what to make of it. So Peter basically says at the beginning of this gospel, look, I can't figure this all out. I don't know what to do with all this, I mean, he came, I thought he was the Messiah. then he went to this crazy idea of the cross, and he went and he suffered and he died. And yes, he's appearing alive, but I don't know what to make of that. He's certainly not the Messiah I ever expected. I was hoping for a guy who would, kind of lead a war against the Romans, and none of that happened. The Romans actually killed him, and I can't figure this all out. I know, but I do know one thing. I know fishing. I'm going back to fishing for now. I got to pay some bills. I don't know. Maybe he was discouraged, disappointed. Maybe he's even angry. I put my whole life for 3 years on hold for this guy, and he led us down to this cross, and now he's kind of, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to put words in Peter's mouth, but he's kind of toying with us. He appears, he disappears, he's here, he's there. Okay. Now, I'm not saying Peter had all these thoughts, and I'm not saying that they're all holy thoughts. I'm just trying to make the whole situation human for you and me, so that we can understand that this is hard. We think, oh, well, doesn't he understand Jesus rose from the dead? No, that's just the point. He doesn't. He knows he's seen him alive, but he doesn't know what this means, and he's trying to figure it all out. You and I have the advantage of looking at this thing from 2,000 years into the future, and we know where it would all lead. He doesn't, and neither do the others. And so he says, I'm going back to fishing. I can't figure this out, but I do know fishing. So he goes. Okay. So there's a kind of a regrettable relapse, we'll call it. Okay. Now the next thing, though, is, as we look at this gospel, is there's a beautiful kind of, reorienting. Let's call it a kind of a reminder, a redeeming reminder, where the Lord stands on the seashore, just like he did before, and said, "Hey," he says, "Children, have you caught anything to eat?" Now you might get a little stuck on this idea of him calling these grown men children. It's not demeaning. It's in that language and in many other languages in the world, even to this day, the use of the diminutive is a sign of affection. Okay, so he literally says, "Little children," paidios, little children, have you caught anything to eat? No, not a thing, sir. He says, "Well, cast your net on the other side." What's he doing? He's reminding them of the glory and the beauty of his first call, when he called them for the first time. And Peter was discouraged. He said, "Lower your nets for a catch." Peter said, "You're crazy, man. All right, I'll do it." And the catch came in. It paid all the bills. And wow. And all of a sudden, the Lord is doing the same thing now. Remember? He's not saying, "What are you all doing out there? And you better get back here. And I told you." He doesn't do any of that. He just says, "Little children, a sign of affection. Have you caught anything?" "Oh, sir, not a thing." "Well, throw it over the right side. You'll catch something." "It's the Lord." That's what John says, "Oh, it's the Lord." And Peter says, "Wow, you're right." And he just throws his tunic on and just jumps into the water and comes to the shore. And isn't it a beautiful image that the Lord is cooking breakfast for them? It's an amazing and beautiful thing. And I don't want to get into the 153 fish. There's a lot of different theories. I think the most common one is it's the number of known nations at the time. But let me ask you a question. Do you know the number of nations in the world today? No, I don't think they did either. I don't know. I honestly don't know the 153 fish, what that symbolizes. But John mentions it for a reason. Okay, so we'll just leave it at that. I don't know what the reason is, but I don't want to dwell on it. I want to get to, after having breakfast with them, a beautiful image, the Son of God cooking breakfast on the seashore with a little charcoal fire. And I think that charcoal fire may have bothered Peter just a little, because he warmed himself by a charcoal fire when he denied the Lord 3 times. And the Lord finally turns, "Peter, come talk to me." And he asked him 3 times, "Peter, do you love me? Peter, do you love me? Peter, do you love me?" "Yes, Lord, I love you. Yes, Lord, I love you. Yes, Lord, I love you." But that's not really what's going on in the Greek text. We who speak English are somewhat hindered in our fuller understanding of the subtleties of this text. So I want to kind of go through that with you now. At the end of the day, the Lord asked Peter 3 times, "Do you love me?" But there's a slightly different vocabulary going between Peter and Jesus. So let's just review, though. We've had a regrettable relapse. We've had a kind of reminder, a redeeming reminder, as the Lord calls them in the way He first called them. We'll call it a reorienting repast. They have a breakfast. Now, the idea, by the way, I want to just mention maybe something about that. Every Mass is a sacrifice, but it's also a meal, and it's meant to be a reorienting meal. It's the Lord wants to bring us every Sunday together and keep us moving in the right direction to orient us. And you notice in the road to Emmaus, they were going in the wrong direction. The Lord celebrated Mass with them and then got them moving back in the right direction. And so for all of us, hopefully that's what the Mass is. Okay, but let's move forward now. We come now to this beautiful discussion between Peter and Jesus. Now, he speaks to him in his birth name, Simon. And the first question that Jesus asked him, in English, I'll just say it first, "Simon, do you love me more than these?" What are these? Well, these are the fish, all those fish he caught. In other words, Peter, I know you can make a lot of money with these fish. And, you can make your way in the world. What do you love more? Do you love me or do you love the fish and fishing and, your career? What do you love more? See? And Peter answers the way you should, but before, you rush to answer that question, what do you love more? Do you love money more than Jesus? Or do you love Jesus more than money? How about your career? How about, we all struggle with this. This is a tough question. We're very attached to the things of this world. And I'm no exception. We all struggle a great deal. Look at me. I'm building this model back here. It's just the way I try to stay sane. I build little things to kind of just go on vacation with my mind for a minute. And this is Notre Dame Cathedral Lego, and I'm building it, and I guess about 80% done. But I mean, if this thing came between me and Jesus, would I get rid of it? I hope so. But it's a small thing. But again, do we love Jesus more than silver and gold? Do we love him more than our possessions and our place in the world? What do we love more? Peter, do you love me more than these? But let's get to the distinction. He says this in Greek, and he says it this way. He says, Simon. He calls him Simon in Greek. Simon, agapos me. Do you love me with agape love? Yeah. And agape love is to love God above all things for God's own sake, just because he's God. I love him more than myself or more than anything else in my life. Agape. That's the highest form of love. Do you love me? He says, Simon, agapos me. And Peter answers very interestingly. He doesn't say agapose. He doesn't use the same verb. He uses a different verb. He says, Kyrie, Lord. Phileo se. I love you with brotherly love. Now, to try to illustrate this for you, I'll just say, if I were to say to you, didn't you really love that movie? And you said, yeah, I liked it. Now, you might say, oh, that's just a distinction without distinction without a difference. Well, no, it isn't. I mean, I'm asking you didn't you love? And you said, I liked. And I'm aware, immediately I'm on alert. Well, what do you mean you liked it? Didn't you really love it? Well, I liked it. It was good. But at the end of the day, you see what I'm saying? There's something that's not paired up. So Jesus again says, Simon, agapos me, do you love me with agape love? And Peter responds, I love you with brotherly love, phileo se, brotherly love. It's a good thing. It's a beautiful thing. It's a love of friendship. There's nothing wrong with it or evil, but it's not quite the same as agape. Okay. Well, Peter, feed my lambs. A second time, Jesus asked him, Simon, Bar-Yonah, Simon, son of Jonah, or John, do you, he says, Simon, Bar-Yonah, agapos me? Kyrie, phileose. I love you with brotherly love. Simon, son of John, do you love me with agape love? Lord, I love you with brotherly love. Tend my sheep. Okay, so you start to see there's something going on. And so let's look now to the third couplet. He says to him a third time, Simon, Bar-Yonah, do you, he said, well, I'll put it in Greek, Simon, phileis me, then do you love me with brotherly love? And Peter was sad that the third time the Lord asked him, do you love me with brotherly love? And he kind of goes, and I'm reading into the, I'm part of supplying a tone that some people would argue, are you sure that's the tone? But I think it is. He says, Lord, you know all things. You know that I only love you with brotherly love. Now, the word only is not in the text, to be fair. But I think that's what he means. He says, you're taunting me at this point. Lord, I'm not going to lie to you anymore. I told you, if everyone else abandoned you, I would never abandon you. But I did. And not only did I abandon you, I denied that I even knew you 3 times. I'm not making promises anymore. I'm so disappointed in myself. I'm so angry, but I'm not going to tell you something that's just boastful and not true. I do love you. I have a great brotherly love for you, but I'm having trouble figuring this whole thing out, and I need to understand more until I commit to you entirely. I don't know what to tell you except I love you with brotherly love. You're the world to me, but I have to say, you've shocked me, you've disappointed me, I'm struggling. I don't understand that cross. I never understood it, and you went to the cross, and now you're alive, and I don't know what any of this means, but I do know this. I have a brotherly love for you, but I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to lie to you and boast and all that I have all this highest love of all loves. That's how I'm supposed to answer the question, but honestly, that's not how I can answer the question. Wow, this is painful but very beautiful. For the first time in his life, Peter is finally being honest. No, it's not fair when I say the first time, but you get the idea. He's been, generally speaking, kind of boastful and, kind of impulsive. He's finally saying, look, I disappointed you, I've disappointed myself, and I'm not going to make big claims. I'm going to just be honest. 5 minutes of a prayer of honesty is better than 3 hours of a prayer of rhetoric that you don't mean. It's honest, and it's saying, Lord, I'm struggling here. I don't get all this. I'll give you what I can, but I don't know. I don't feel like I can give you what you're asking. Beautiful. And does the Lord reject him? He says, no. Feed my lambs, tend my sheep, feed my lambs. I still have work for you, Peter. I don't call the qualified. I'll eventually qualify the called. See? And he will. We'll see about that in a minute. But this is painful, but beautiful. It's basically saying what you and I have to struggle with the Lord. The Lord wants to know, do I have your entire heart? Are you free of all attachments? Are you completely free to love me and just give your life radically to me? Sorta. I think, honestly, for a lot of us, depending on where you are in your life, that could be true. I'm not entirely free of all worldly loves or other things. I don't know that I can honestly say to you, Lord, I love you above all things for your own sake. I love you more than myself, or more than anything or anyone in this world. Agapose. No, I can't. Lord, I know how I should answer the question, but if you want the honest answer, I'm struggling. I still have attachments. I still have struggles. And I don't know entirely how to get free of all of them. I don't even know what half of them are. Good for you. That's honest. And that's the place to begin. and stay there with the Lord and be humble. Go before him like a blind beggar and say, what you ask is hard. And I honestly don't know how to get there, but I know you can get me there. But I have to come before you like a blind beggar and be honest with you. Lord, I love you. But I think sometimes I love myself or other things, or at least they have more of my heart than you do. And I don't know how to stop. And what a delight for that honesty to break through. And then the Lord can go to work. And so we come before him humble, contrite. Instead of this, the Pharisee who said, I praise you, I'm not like other men, like this guy over here. You come before him like the guy who just says, the tax collector, the sinner. I just beats his breast and says, have mercy on me, a sinner. That guy's got a chance. The other guy, unless he repents, he's lost. Okay, so I'm just trying to illustrate. Now, one final thought, though, about all of this is the required remedy. After all of this, so we had a regrettable relapse. We've had, the redeeming reminder with the reorienting repast, and with that beautiful discussion which had that with Peter to reorient him. But we also finally come to the required remedy. Now, he says, Peter, when you were a young man, you would just put on your clothes, throw your clothes and go wherever you wanted. But when you're older, someone's going to tie you up and lead you off to where you'd rather not go. And he said this, it says in parentheses, to indicate the death by which Peter would one day glorify him. And so what he's saying is, Peter, one day you will get to that point when you will love me above all things, above all people, completely. You'll love me above all things. And that day will come. And the Lord links it to his martyrdom. Now, go with me 30-some years into the future. We're no longer at the Sea of Galilee. We're at a hill in Rome called the Vatican. It's just outside the Circus Maximus of Nero, who just recently built. It was also a place where executions were done, and also there was a cemetery nearby on this Vatican hill. And Peter's upside down on a cross. And everything's upside down. To look up, he has to look down. And he finally can say to the Lord, now, finally, I love you more than myself, more than anyone or anything on this earth. I give myself entirely to you now. It took me time to get here, Lord. 30-some years, and here I am. And now I can truly say, Kyrie, agapo say, Lord, I love you with agape love. And it took suffering and difficulties to get him there. And it'll be the same for us. One day, it may take our deathbed for most of us. We've finally given everything back. We've let go of our health, our svelte figures, our whatever, I gave, hair, whatever. But not only more importantly than that, people we've loved, we've had to give them back to God. Our careers, other things, we had to hang up the cleats, and we're finally now to the point where we can finally say, like I heard my father say, I heard my grandmother say. I would have heard my mother say, but she died suddenly. But I heard my father and my grandmother say, all I want now is to go home and be with God. I love God and heaven more than anything in this world. I'm ready to go. That's all I want. It's painful, but it's beautiful. And I think for all of us, this gospel is the kind of discussion we all need to have with Jesus. And to be honest with him and say, I love you, Lord. You're on the list, but you're not always at the top of the list. I'm trying to change that, but I don't know how. But you do. Do what you need to do. And for most of us, that's going to involve letting go of everything in this world. And that'll happen naturally for most of us as we progress through old age and then eventually to our deathbed. But the Lord will do it. And he did it for Peter. He'll do it for us. I hope this doesn't sound morose. It could be understood in a very cloudy, terrible way, but that's only if you love this world too much. If if you love if you love the Lord and you love heaven, every day you make, every journey is one day closer to home, and the day that you die is the most wonderful day of your life. Now, I know most of us will have to tour through purgatory, but you get the idea. We finally get out of the lunatic asylum and we go home. And wow, what a day of rejoicing. Even if we have to go to purgatory, you know? And I hope you'll pray for the people in purgatory as I must. But at the end of the day, they're on their way to heaven and they're so glad. But again, for all of us, there comes this honesty that we have to say, look, only you can do this, Lord. And he promised Peter one day, and on that Vatican Hill 30 years later, upside down, to look up into heaven, Peter said, Agapo se Kyrie, I love you above all things, O Lord. And so will you, and so will I, if we are faithful. So, Lord, keep us faithful to death, and help us to follow the model of Peter. Honesty, trusting you, and you said one thing to him that day at the lakeside, Sequere me, follow me. Help us to follow you, and you will bring us to that place where one day, authentically, we can say, you're all I want. And in you, receiving you, everything else besides. But you, Lord, I love you above all things. Agapo se Kyrie.